Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a film I watched a couple of days ago on Shudder, or no, on Hulu, excuse me, on Hulu, from the same director as the film called Host on Shudder. This particular movie is called Dashcam. Many people have already heard about this. It came out as a 2021 release. I think people just mainly started talking about it last year in 2022. I'm reviewing it in 2023 because I just now got around to watching it. I just now realized it was on Hulu, and I happened to be browsing around on Hulu the other day for some horror things to watch. Now, first and foremost, I love found footage movies. I think Host, everybody seems to agree, Rob Savage, who made these two films, everybody seems to kind of be on the same point of Host is a better film. Even being a laptop subgenre horror movie, that one to me is a lot better and a lot more entertaining. And for how short it is, it's like an hour long, not even that, maybe an hour and 5 minutes. That movie flies by, the pacing is flying by too. It's very fun to watch, very enjoyable, and I think it's a good Shudder release. It's the first thing I ever watched when I got a Shudder account, a while back, like 4 months ago, 6 months ago, somewhere in there. So, Dashcam is a little bit different. Dashcam is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. If you haven't seen it before, I would love to see what you have to say down in the comment section down below. Mainly because this film is going to be extremely controversial. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. I know it's kind of early on in my review to say that, but I wanted to go ahead and bring that up. Now, Dashcam is a live stream movie, if you've seen that kind of thing before. So it's kind of a found footage film, kind of a laptop horror mixture, blend, whatever. Essentially of a young woman who has this thing called Band Car, right? It's kind of like Cash Cab, if you've ever seen that. You're driving around, there's cameras inside of the cab, mainly one on her hat that she puts her cell phone in to live stream from there. She can also put her phone on her dashboard and has it facing towards her. A lot of the film, for like the first, out of the hour and 20 minutes, I would say probably the first 30 minutes are set up about her. And I'll get to her in a minute. But she does this live stream thing where she plays music on live stream while she's driving, which is very dangerous. Why would you do that? But she doesn't. She mainly raps while she's on the screen. Now, when the film started up, I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know anything about the film aside from it being, what it is, as a found footage laptop live stream thing. Even with the chat going down the side of the screen, I knew those things going into this, and I had heard a lot of negative from pretty much everybody I had watched a review from, had read anything about it. Didn't really want to get into too many details of anything, but I had seen a lot of negative feedback on this film, which surprised me for a Rob Savage project, especially for the guy who made Host, which got constantly just unanimous love. Dashcam is controversial for a very specific reason. This is another COVID film, just like Host was. And not that it centers around that. You could kind of pick out maybe there's a message of some sort pointing to that. But it's filmed in kind of a COVID state. A COVID context is what we should probably call it. Everybody's kind of being a little bit spread apart. There's not a whole lot of cast in the film, probably for budgetary restraint, but also because it's COVID time, right? Now, the young lady, Annie, I believe is her name, she has a very interesting personality. She is fucking obnoxious to the point where, like, I couldn't stand this chick. It's not a trash on the actress. The actress, I think, does a good job, as well as pretty much everybody in the film who had a part that they had to speak in. I think everybody did a solid job in that regard. Annie is... Okay, I'm not trying to get political. I make little jokes here and there about my particular political leanings, but if you haven't seen the film, you need to prepare yourself if you go into this film based on my recommendation, which I don't know if I would call it a recommendation. It's not really a big recommend for me. It depends on who you are, what you like, even down to your personal beliefs. So, with this being a COVID film, Rob Savage, for whatever reason, decided to take a massive risk of having our main character be a very conservative young lady, but not even conservative like me. More in like the obnoxious, have to be very Karen-like, and I'm assuming that that's supposed to be kind of an attack, but kind of doesn't feel like it. I don't really know what was supposed to be done with that. There were jokes that Annie made with her obnoxious, nasally-ass voice that I thought she was really funny. I thought were really clever, funny jokes. I don't know if they were improv. Being a found footage type of thing, it probably is improv. But if it's writing, great job to whoever wrote the film, Rob Savage or otherwise. whoever was coming up with that, some of it was really funny. Some of the songs that she would create, the rap songs she would develop, They're supposed to be white girl rapping stupid shit. It's supposed to be bad. And it's funny. I genuinely think some of it is funny. Now, some of it's really annoying. A lot of her jokes are really annoying. But some of them land. I have to give credit where credit is due for my kind of immature humor, my kind of conservative leanings, all of that. It made me laugh. There's one of my favorite scenes in this film with this chick, Annie. And I'll get to the plot and shit eventually. Just give me some time. I have to talk about this stuff first and foremost because it's so prominent about this movie that you will not like this film if you don't like Annie or if you don't have some kind of reason to hate her or anything like that. Because it seems like a lot of people are skewed on whether they like the film or not in its making and everything based around Annie, which is understandable. One of my favorite scenes in the film is when Annie gets a phone call from her friend in London when she goes to visit out there. It's the friend's girlfriend, and she's a very liberal person. And Annie gets on the phone, and she's about to apologize for all these horrible things she did to her friend and his girlfriend. And she immediately starts apologizing. Well, hey, you know, I gotta admit, I'm sorry that you're brainwashed by the MSN media. I thought that shit was hilarious. The stuff that she would just pile out of there at the times when she probably should not have done that were hilarious. It's not a reality-based film. It's really not. This is a kind of a supernatural movie. I don't really know how much extent I can call it that, but it kind of is. It has a mixture of kind of a creature feature feel to it at some times. That's going to work for some people like myself. Some people it's not. This film is not a good movie, per se. Annie really makes or breaks it for me, and again, she kind of breaks it more than she makes it. As much as I like some of the certain things said in the film, sometimes I do think she is funny sometimes, as I said, but most of the time, with the nasally voice and the slight lisp, which I have that as well, that becomes worse in your main character. It's not a dash on Annie, it's not a dash on anybody who has a lisp. Again, I have one too, but you have to understand where I'm coming from. The fact that sometimes, if you're loud, if you're obnoxious, if you think you're funnier than you actually are, that stuff really gets in the way of a good movie, or a bad movie for that matter. Sometimes it can improve a bad movie, sometimes it can completely crash a good movie. For me, I think this is crashing a good movie. It's well made, it's well shot in the sense of what we're dealing with here, and the kind of project and subgenre we're talking about with this movie. But for me personally, I think the effects are fantastic. I think when it has gore, it's really great. I think the sound design can be really great. The camera work, however, is fucking terrible. As well shot as the film can be for the kind of project we're talking about, basically a webcam type of movie, there are shots in the midst of crazy, dangerous situations where I understand that Annie, or whoever has the camera, like her best friend who kind of tags along sometimes in the film, I understand that as they're running around, the camera's going to shake. We're trying to be realistic in that sense. And for a comedy movie, and I do kind of look at this as more of a comedy parody type of thing. A lot of people seem to be missing that. I don't know why people are missing the fact that this is clearly like a comedy, you know? The direction that we're going, I understand a lot of it's supposed to be over the top, you know, but the shaky cam stuff is really over the top. A lot of the time you can't even really follow what's happening, and frankly, this doesn't happen very often, but it's happening more and more the older I get. I got a little motion sickness, dude. It reminded me when I watched the first two of the Dragon Ball Super movies. I got a lot of motion sickness watching those, watching, what was it, the Spider-Man film, the one with Miles Morales as the main character, the first one. I haven't seen the new one yet, of course, but all that CGI fighting, all the colors popping in your face, makes me dizzy, for whatever reason. The older I get, the more I feel like that. This film had that same effect, that motion sickness that settled in on me. I was like, holy shit, just swinging my head around as I watched this shit, trying to understand what I was looking at. It's basically a plotless film until about halfway through, which is really annoying. It's kind of just Annie doing things, going and bothering people, being obnoxious in stores, arguing with people about not wearing masks because of COVID. I thought that stuff could be entertaining sometimes. I was curious about what direction we were going since it was basically plotless. And here's where I'll finally talk about the plot. About halfway through this hour and 20-minute long film, so like 40 minutes into the movie, she meets somebody at a store that she tries to pick up food from. After doing all these awful things for so long, she tries to steal, or not tries to steal, she tries to go in and order some food from a place. And she ends up getting looped into this situation where she's supposed to transport an elderly black lady, who I think gave off a good performance for what she had to do, by the way. Annie is supposed to transport her somewhere else. Things go horribly wrong because something is wrong with this lady. She has a lot of mental issues, apparently. She keeps getting out of the car. That shit's funny. I really liked that. Again, this would have been better if Annie had not been Annie, you know? Like, I really think this could have been more recommendable to people. But it seems to me, a lot of people are just getting triggered over the film having a conservative protagonist who is supposed to be overly obnoxious. This is when we use the definition of a right-wing troll, we're not referring to people like me on the internet. We're talking about people like Annie on the internet. That shit is what we're talking about. The people who are going to scream and fight with you and probably get to the point of wanting to punch you over difference on a politics thing. And a lot of people seem to be hating this in what I see on IMDb, on Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, based on her being conservative, not that the movie is making fun of that. And it doesn't really even make fun of it that severely, you know? It's kind of just a film I think everybody needs to learn in this planet right now to make fun of themselves a little bit. And here's the sirens coming to help because people are going to kill me over that, over saying that. Anyway, learn to laugh at yourself, folks. Learn to laugh at some of the things you think and say and believe. It does the heart a lot of good. And I think this is a great example of a movie that allowed me to do that a little bit, but I'm not giving it a good review, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going that far. But it was trying its best to be a fun time. And again, I think Rob Savage behind the camera does a good job on a lot of things. Again, I think the effects are fantastic. When you get to the final parts of the film, the final 10 minutes specifically, that stuff is really good. It looks good, at least, when you get to actually see it with all the shaky cam shit moving everywhere. But a lot of it is to its own detriment because of what they did with a lot of this film. Got a lot of poor choices, frankly. But there are some things that at least Rob Savage took risks, and I will give him that. I'm not going to, you know, just be a major fan of the guy. I think he's a good filmmaker, but I will say the risks that were taken for this movie are very questionable because of the things like Annie, because of the band car thing. That is up in the air on whether you'll like that or not. If you're into either of those things, anything like that, you might like the film. If you like found footage films, you might like this too. But I don't know how much of a massive recommendation I would make this to people. It's got its moments. It really does. I really genuinely mean that from the bottom of my heart. It has its moments, but it's really not what I wanted, I guess. And probably not what you want too, therefore, if I had to bet. Anyway, not that I demand a movie be one way or another, I just want something good. Really, something entertaining. And this film has some entertaining beats to it that I liked, but it's still a fucking mess. Anyway, if if I had to rate, or not rate, yeah, I guess it would be rate. I almost said rank, like ranking video, and I messed that up. If I had to rate Dashcam on a 5-star basis, I would give this like a 2 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I had some moments that entertained me, but a lot of the time Annie annoyed the shit out of me. Just constantly running her mouth. People like this dude. I have people in my family that, conservative and liberal, as a matter of fact, that never shut the fuck up. And she's a great example. Someone that sounds and reminds me just like those people. Please, folks. Oh my god, if you're like that, stop. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on Dashcam down in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, guys. God bless you all, and goodbye.